Hi everyone. So today I'm going to talk you through danger of a single story, and should this anthology come up in your exam, maybe some of the questions that could come up, the key points to explore, and what I think is some of the best quotations to analyse. So in terms of the purpose, audience and form, remember that this one is a TED Talk. So although we are reading it, she did deliver it as a speech in a TED Talk to an audience. The audience, I guess, is anyone that has faced prejudice, discrimination, has been stereotyped, and the purpose is to inform and perhaps also to entertain. So in it, she talks about the dangers of having a single story. Within that, some of the key themes that are explored are stereotyping, racism, being judged, and also her identity, and how in ways sometimes she feels like she her loss of identity. So I think if this anthology does come up, I think it's quite limited in terms of the questions that it can ask you. So it might be something such as, how does the writer use language and structure to present her thoughts and feelings? Or how does the writer use language and structure to present the dangers of a single story? And I think both of those questions are quite similar. The points that you would focus on are quite similar. So what I think, the three paragraphs that would stand out to me to write about are how she presents her thoughts and feelings on the loss of identity. That would be my first paragraph. And remember, I always advise for any of the anthologies really, for your paragraphs to focus on paragraph 1 on the beginning of the extract, your second paragraph on the middle of the extract, and third paragraph on the ending of the extract. And that ensures that you're looking at the scope of the anthology as a whole. And if you were to get a question on how tension and suspense is built, if you plan to do it on the beginning of the extract and how it progresses, you are automatically revising for that style of question. So second paragraph would be how she presents the problems of being ignorant towards other cultures and unfair stereotyping. And then thirdly, how she presents her thoughts on the dangers of trusting media coverage and how she herself falls victim to trusting the media and how that can lead to a single story. So this is almost my plan. If there were my 3 topic paragraphs, identity, stereotypes, media coverage, you can see how the lines I've chosen to focus on. And then what I think within those lines are the key quotations, and then I have analysed those. And then would then create my paragraphs. So although, yes, this is very detailed here, of course, you're not going to do a detailed plan like this in an exam, but this is in order to help you. But in the exam, what you would do, once you see the question, for all of the questions 1 to 5, read the questions before you go back to see the extracts, and then that will narrow your focus. So for this one, thoughts and feelings, that's what you would go through and focus on. So then if these were my 3 points, here what I think, and maybe the key quotations to go with that. So for my paragraph on how she presents her thoughts and feelings on the loss of identity, the key opening part is when she talks about being a storyteller, but she says actually the stories that she herself wrote were exactly the kind of stories I was reading. All my characters were white and blue-eyed. So here she is talking about how literature heavily features Caucasian people, and then the dangers that can have. Since when reading or writing about these characters, she could not personally identify with them. Yet she uses the adverb exactly to show how she completely adhered to the how characters that she was reading about was represented. But she herself can't identify with them. Yet she, as an African woman, is still writing stories as if she believes they have to be about Caucasian people, what they look like, what the places that they live is like, the problems or lack of problems that they have. So she talks about, she wrote about how lovely it was that the sun had come out. So here she uses a humorous tone, and if you watch her TED Talk, you will see that part how it's very light-hearted and the audience laugh. And she's likely alluding to England. So in England, where I'm from, when the weather comes out, it's very rare, to be honest. It rains all of the time. The weather's always grey and miserable. So in the summer, when luckily 2 or 3 days in the summer where the weather is nice, it's what everyone will be talking about. Can you believe the sun's out? It's so nice. So her characters, they're talking about the weather coming out. And she laughs because her writing from Africa, where it's always sunny, but because she is not relating to Africans in her storytelling, but about what is it, like white children with blue eyes from the UK. She's writing about the weather, where she can actually personally relate to that. So that's what it says here, how since the weather is so dismal in England, everyone celebrates when it comes out. Yet because she's from Nigeria, she states, we never talked about the weather because there was no need to. So this, although she's using humour here, it does present her lack of identity and the lack of representation of her race within literature. So as opposed to her being able to draw upon her own experiences, like I'd imagine I do, you watching this video, Will, when you were talking to people, maybe when you're writing speeches, creative writing, she doesn't do that, and she feels the pressure to base her stories upon places maybe she hasn't traveled and upon characters that are white and blue-eyed, and that is because of the lack of representation of her race within literature. Another problem that she focuses on throughout The Danger of a Single Story is being ignorant towards other cultures and stereotyping people in an unfair way. But she does admit that she is also guilty of having a single story when she believed that people like Fide's family have nothing. So I felt enormous pity. So the collective noun people is a huge generalization. The people who live in domestic help have nothing. So what she seemingly means here by saying they have nothing is because they are poor financially. But that doesn't mean that they have nothing and require pity, as if their conditions are so terrible that we should only feel sympathy for them. And that is their single story. That was the judgment she had towards families that were domestic help and the stereotype that she carried. So she is also guilty of generalizing, of stereotyping. And this same word pity is also used by her flatmate. So when she talks about it's very anecdotal, the whole anthology extract, but when she talks about her flatmate and she makes comments such as she should listen to tribal music, where actually she likes Mariah Carey, and she treated her with a kind of patronizing, well-meaning pity. So while Adichie realised that her misjudgment was based upon her single story of a poor family, in contrast to her being middle class, so having more money, having different types of lifestyle, she judges someone based upon their finance, I guess, and that difference in social class. What she is judged upon by her flatmate is her race. So the adjective well-meaning illustrates how her flatmate doesn't even realise that she is being offensive or ignorant. Perhaps how Adichie didn't when she was talking about Fide's family. As Adichie goes on to explain, she has likely been influenced by the media. So see how the way that I have structured these paragraphs, they complement one another and it's progressive. So as I would be talking about stereotypes, this is then going to lead me on to the problems of media coverage, which is what generates these stereotypes. So last paragraph, She also presents her thoughts on the dangers of trusting media coverage. So one of them is she talks about how Africans dying of poverty and AIDS, unable to speak for themselves, waiting to be saved by a kind white foreigner. So she uses a list here of stereotypes about Africans, and the kind white foreigner could refer back to the problem of literature heavily featuring white people. So see how even if I was making a comment here, I could relate back to my first paragraph, and how lots of characters in literature are white and blue-eyed. So she alludes to the problem of white saviorism, which is this idea that within literature, then we have countries like Africa, where it's a white woman, a white man that comes and saves the day, and they are the hero of the story. So Adichie Contrasts also, another example of the danger of media coverage is what she felt about Mexicans. So she contrasts her preconceptions of Mexicans sneaking across the border to when she actually visited Mexico and saw Mexicans firsthand, and how it made her think about how she had been manipulated by the media to think as Mexicans as just crossing the border. When she actually visited, she watched them go to work and smoking and laughing. So this presents the danger of media coverage. The verb sneaking presents Mexicans as almost criminal, breaking the law by crossing the border. And I'd imagine this is what you have heard Donald Trump on about the wall. It is news that has been all over the media outlets for years now. Adichie presents the problems of believing everything that you see on the news, but does admit that is what she has fallen victim to as well. She's not been hypocritical in her speech. She does talk about how she's been influenced by the media. She has stereotyped people, but it's taken time for her to realise that, and how she herself was victim of a single story. So the verb sneaking is juxtaposed to the verb smoking and laughing and going to work. And she admits that she almost felt surprised at the sight of Mexicans just doing normal, everyday things, because her single story of them had been immigration. Thereby, that was all that she associated with Mexicans. It took her to actually go to the country to realise how ignorant she had been, because she had just believed what she had seen on via the media. So here I have used my points here, my 3 paragraphs, my key points, which is what you so need to remember in the exam. You can't just jump straight into analysis or just have a point and then a series of quote and analysis without a solid point there. Because remember, your question is, how does she present her thoughts and feelings? So you should aim to, I would say, have 3 examples of different thoughts and feelings that she presents. If you just had 1 point of her loss of identity, I think you would run out of things to say. Also, there's more to it than that. She doesn't only explore the loss of identity. That's just one point you could make. So aim to have 3 different points. So on here is the model answer where I have wrote this up. So my points here, the quotes, the techniques, this is where it all comes together. And what is important is to make sure you do keep linking back to the question and also consider the effect on the reader. So I'm not going to read this all through. You can read this in your own time, but I'm going to just leave it on here a sec. So if you are watching the video and you want to pause it, you can read it through in your own time. But it's pretty much exactly everything that I have just gone through. As I always say, if you have a solid plan, then you will have a solid response. Okay, good luck everyone. And if danger of a single story does come up in the exam, hopefully this will give you some pointers of things you could include. Good luck. See you later, guys.